Everyone. Today, I thought of sharing with you all what are the spiritual traps that a seeker would go through. And I've already done the part one, which is 9 points before. And today, I thought of sharing another 10 more points. Okay, so 10 point. Already assume that truth or enlightenment or moksha or whatever you want to call it looks like this. So you already have a frame in your head. That is how enlightenment would look like. And this is again a hindering to the part because no one can assume this because this is not something that you can grasp from your mind. Because it is something which happens when there's no mind. So no one can expect or come to a conclusion that enlightenment would look like this. So it's very important that like you question what are the frames that you have put in your like in terms of enlightenment, because none of those are true. Only through experience someone would realize what that is. So having such an frame will always hinder you. So just stay open-minded and let go of any expectation as like the enlightenment would look like a magic blast or like none of those are true. It's just recognizing your true nature as it is, and which no one can assume how that would look like. And the best is you stay in the not knowing of what is the truth, because only through that you will see the real knowing of the truth. Okay, so 11th one, already assume a realized person would look like this. So that is one more trap. Like most of the people get trapped by looking at someone from their appearance, how they have looked, like what are they wearing, and then talking slow and then a realized person would not have any emotions and they must be having some magical powers, and all these are just, remember, assumptions or a framework that you have created for a realized person. And none of these are true. They don't have a particular dress. They could be anyone because they do not have any frame. They would look like anyone. So stay open-minded, because you might be sitting, like you might be having your breakfast with someone who has already awakened. You never know. So remember, just stay open-minded. This is a simple person, just like anyone else. So that person could be anything, would be wearing a t-shirt, would be wearing anything someone could possibly. They do have emotions. They don't possess any magical powers. It's just the internal shift inside them. And all these assumptions will hinder your path, because once you see someone who, like your intuition might show you someone who's awakened through your, like, how you recognize the energies, but then your mind will come in between and say, but these people look like these people, this person talks like this person doesn't have emotions, or any whatever that you have put in your frame will come in between, and then you would miss a chance of talking to someone who has already awakened and has seen it in experience. So, because if you get a chance to talk with them and have a conversation and have a discussion, that will change your life. So, stay open minded. You can never know how that person would look like, because it's just a normal human being who has gone through an internal shift within them. Yes. So the next step would be being close minded. Like this path, for you to go deeper in this path, it's very important that you are very, 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 very open minded to a level that I can't even tell you how much you need to be open minded, that much. You need to be open minded. You need to constantly question your frames and open your mind up. Like, that's the way to go. It's very important that you do not get hooked with narrow mindedness. Like, get hooked with ideologies and ideas and anything that makes you close minded. Like, try to question societal norms and what you have put in your head. It's very important. Like, one of the biggest technique that I was using was belief reprogramming, because I realized how many beliefs I had about the reality. And when I started questioning, the mind started like getting wider and wider, and it starts seeing very much different reality and a perspective. And you need to be able to like bring in multiple perspectives, and that is the way for you to broaden your mind and see in a very different light. So, like being open-minded in sense, like one time before I went to Japan, I was getting a lot of Japanese videos recommendations, and in this particular one video, I remember someone was interviewing Japanese women, and the question that they asked from these Japanese women was like, um, how would you react if you like, this is also like I'm sharing how different people, like how different each culture to culture think, and that like that is why when you expose yourself to different cultures, you tend to be more and more open-minded. So it's very important. Like this, someone was interviewing this Japanese woman and asked, like, how would you react if your man just goes sleep with the prostitute? And then she said, like, I do not mind as long as the person doesn't have any emotional connection. Like, do you see this? This is quite different than how a Eastern person, like from countries, from South Asian country, would have in their mind how they conduct a relationship. So it's quite interesting when how different each culture is. Like that's why sometimes I like really urge people to go expose them to different cultures, because that really will get you open your mind. It's very important this part. Like sometimes people get hooked with their own cultures and thinking this is the only way that how someone does one thing. And it's not how it is. And there's a whole new world and very differently people are operating their lives. And so it's at least if you are not traveling, just exposing yourselves to like internet and see how other people live in their life. That itself would make you quite open-minded as a person. And the next next trap is people go on projecting their self onto others and see themselves. So in spirituality, if you want to go truly deep in this path, it's very important that you take responsibility for your shadows. Like whatever you're projecting onto another person, and it's important that this is you unrealized, you recognize that this is a projection, you know. So I remember I've shared this many times, like in my path, and I was going through spiritual seeking. When I was listening to a spiritual teacher, Osho, and I remember I was like getting very much triggered by listening to him, where I felt like he's quite arrogant. And then, like, more I listened, more I felt like he's very arrogant. And then my coach at that time, I remember, like, she told me that Dilmi, he's enlightened, and do you see yourself through him? That is a projection. And that blew my mind, actually. At that time, I didn't want to really believe her, but that was the truth. So, like, we are going on projecting ourselves to others and like getting triggered, not knowing that you're seeing yourself. And these are your disowned parts within you. So it's quite important that you recognize these things and integrate back to yourself. So that would really help you. This is called shadow work. And this would really help you in this spiritual journey. And like more projections you have in your life, more it's going to be a trap, because you are going to constantly getting triggered because of this projection, not knowing that you see who you are. And like someone who's constantly getting triggered, how could they have energy to go deeper in the path, because they are constantly in anger or like hostility, and that release through anger, and then this energy you need in order to go deeper in the path. So remember that. And the next one is some people trying to go in this path in logical ways. I'll tell you something, that this path, I would say 10% is logical, and the rest 90% is illogical. It's not in logic, trust me. And so people who are quite intellectual would have this trap that they want something logical. I'm telling you, this is beyond logic. This is not something you can grasp from logic at all. Only, like, I believe you could go like 10%, and the rest of the 90% is completely out of the logic. Remember that not everything can be scientifically proven, and that's how it is. And so, like, if you're quite like a logical person, sometimes you might need to let go of your logic, and that would be very difficult thing to do, because that is how you have operated in your life most of the time. But to let go of logic, and because mostly scientific based people are quite prone to this, and that is one more trap, because this path is not the path which you can go with logic at all. So yeah. And the next one is, when you're listening to a spiritual teacher, you are hearing what you want to hear. You really don't hear what the teacher is telling you. So that is one more trap, because like you could like you could interpret, because this, whatever you hear, it goes through your mind filters and reach out to you. When it reaches out to you, it's not even what the teacher shared. So it's very important that you, when you listen to a spiritual teacher, sit without any analyzer and just listen as if you're listening to a song without any judgment, you know. Switch off your analyzer and then just listen. You know, don't have any filters and just listen very deeply. And that itself is a meditation to itself. You know, so it's quite important that you listen very deeply and hear what the uh, teacher trying to say, because that's the only way that you would hear something new. Otherwise, you are hearing yourself. You're hearing to your mind. You're not hearing the teacher. And let let that newness come to you through the teacher. But if you are stuck with your own ideas and you hear through your mind filters, you would not really hear the teacher. And so it's very important that you listen to the teacher very deeply and in an open-minded way. So, and next one is, next trap is thinking you're a good person. And this is why I'm highly recommend you to do shadow work, because none of these people are good completely. This good and bad is a duality, you know, like it's just good and bad according to what. And at the same time, like someone thinking that they're a good person is a huge trap. That means you have a big shadow that you need to integrate, because you will realize that you are getting triggered so much because your shadow is so big. And seeing your ugliness in a raw way is very important. And when you start seeing ugliness, I've seen this. Like sometimes I've had sessions where the client want to vomit because it just goes that deep. Because seeing yourself very deeply is not an easy task. Seeing your ugliness face to face is quite difficult. And I go very intensely with shadow work with my clients, and that's when people start seeing their own ugliness, and that's quite difficult to take it in. But that's the way to go. That's the way to go. Because that only seeing your ugliness that you come to the wholeness. Otherwise, there's so many parts within you which you are not owning yourself and you're rejecting within yourself, and there's a huge conflict going on in yourself. So energy is wasted just you conflicting with your own parts, with your own energies. So it's very important, like doing shadow work and integrating these parts back to yourself, and like not getting identified as a good person, because this could be a quite big trap, especially in the spiritual, among spiritual people. So, and like be honest, and this you need a brutal honesty to see your own ugliness, and it's not easy. And so thinking you're a good person and getting identified with that is a really big trap. Remember, there's no 100% good people in this world. It just, life is a duality, and both everyone has this duality. And just like every woman has a masculine energy, just like every man has a feminine energy. So just like that, like this is everyone has good and bad within them. So you see that within yourself. It's challenging, but that's the way to go. And then the 17th one is listening to your own mind as a guidance in the spiritual path. Well, remember, mind is the very thing which hinders your spiritual journey. This is like asking from the thief's mother, did you see the thief? So she would never tell where the thief is, because that's the thief's mother. So just like that, mind's function is to keep this illusion alive. And mind will never guide you in this path. Mind is the last person who would guide you in this path. So listening to the spiritual guidance from your mind is a huge trap, huge trap. Because as I said, mind's function is to keep the illusion alive. So how would we rely on to get answers for the truth? As I said, this is an experience you would have when there's no mind. It feels quite threatening each time you go deeper in the path, in the spiritual path. Mind would do anything to stop you going deeper in the path. So mind will never give you answers to the spirituality. It will support in some ways, but it's very tricky. Like mind is quite tricky. So remember, like listening to mind for the spiritual guidance is the biggest trap someone could possibly imagine. So that's where, like, even when you see a teacher, the mind would say so many things what it knows already. Yet mind cannot recognize as a true spiritual teacher. It is your heart who would recognize. It is your intuition which would recognize. Mind will always make you go astray. Like it would not let you go deeper in the path. That is the last function it would do, because mind find it threatening more you go deeper, because you're dismantling your mind. So why would it support to dismantle its own thing? So remember, like, not to get into that trap. Like let's say you want to ask the question, who am I? That is not a question you ask from the mind. So remember that, do not rely on your mind for answers in the spiritual journey. It doesn't know. And the next one is listening to teachings which agree with your expectations. So remember, like, teachings will not agree with your expectations. And if that's the case, that's not the truth. Like, these teachings go beyond your expectations. That's why I said you need to be very, very open-minded in order to see this for yourself. And listening to teachings which agree with your expectations, and each time a teacher talks something out of your expectation and you stop listening to that, and that hinders your path big times. Again, that you are living in your own mind, you are living in your own frame, you are not going beyond your mind, you are not questioning your own mind, you're not questioning your own frames. So it's very important that, like, you listen to something which challenges you. I remember when I was listening to Osho, like it was like so challenging. It's like I was like in my early 20s and it was challenging so much. That challenged all my beliefs, all my assumptions about life, and that's the way to go. And none of those teachings were not in my expectation, but even though I just kept on reading them, because I trusted my intuition, I felt it's right, even though mine couldn't understand at the time. And then the next one is not listening to your intuition. I'll tell you, your intuition is your teacher. You will be guided in this path, spiritual path, through your intuition. Your intuition is your teacher. Your intuition is the one which recognizes the true teaching, true teacher. Your intuition is the one which feels like there's something off here. Intuition is the very thing which would realize there's something off in this relationship. Intuition is the very thing which realize that there's something off in this job. Intuition is the one which can recognize the energies, and energies never lie. So if you do not listen to your intuition, that would hinder your path big time. I'm telling you, intuition is the one which exactly guides you in this path. So you need to really listen to your intuition, and you need to even harness the power of it. You need to strengthen your intuition. You need to improve your intuition even more by doing meditation, by doing inner work and connected to the source, and so that you can hear your intuition more clearly and can recognize the signs it's trying to give. Sometimes intuition is not just a sound in your heart. It's like you would get goosebumps. You would see some message through a movie, or you never know how the intuition comes into your life. So it's very important that you listen to your intuition and you know what is mind's voice as well as intuition, which is your heart's voice. And that is your guidance, that is your navigation in this entire path. And next one is next step is getting identified with a religion or some nationality or race. You can see each time someone getting identified with anything, any concept, keep aside religion, nationality, and race, that they get distorted in their perspective. So imagine when someone gets really identified even with a religion, they are only believing that this is the religion that would tell you the truth, and the rest, everything is false. This is a huge trap, you know. How would you know that all other things are false? Or your nationality is the right way of doing everything? How do you know? How do you know your religion is the very religion which tells the truth. So it's very important that we don't get identified, yet we stay open-minded for everything, you know, because by doing that, you are the one who is limiting yourself, and that really hinders the path. This is about spirituality. This is about simply recognizing your true nature. Stay open-minded and make everything a support in your path. And that's what I did. I stay open-minded, and I could gain anything from any religion, anything from any nationality, and anything from any race. I, in fact, work with coaching around the world with clients, Europe, US, Australia, or Singapore, in any Sri Lanka, Africa. So, like, go beyond, question all of these, what you are getting identified as, because none of these are you. None of these represents who you are. These are labels that you have put on you. You need to go beyond these labels. And getting identified deeply with any label just hinders your path. You know what I'm talking. This can really limit and hinders you. So those are the 10 points that I wanted to share in the parts 2. And so I will share the next points in the next video. Thank you.